Hello and welcome to part 6 of my look at the Hyperkin Retron5. In this video I'm going to be talking about all things Sega on the Retron5. That is the Sega Genesis, the Sega MegaDrive, and the Sega Master System portion of the Retron5. So without further ado, let's get right into the game compatibility test. So we got first one up. Oops. Is one of my favorite games for the Sega Genesis, and that being Arcus Odyssey by Wolf Team. Just look at that parallax scroll. Alright, let's get right into it. Alright, next. Next, I'm going to try a very classic game. Has amazing music. Here is Streets of Rage 1, which very interestingly gets labeled both by its English name and its Japanese name in its title header there. And the reason for that is, I'll explain that in just a sec. So there it is, Streets of Rage. But I'm actually going to go back to the main menu, and I'm going to do something here. I'm going to go to the settings menu, and we're going to find the region, and we're going to set this to Japan. Now we're going to remove the game, redump it by putting it back in, and try it again. Same cartridge, but now the game is in Japanese. And the reason for this is because early MegaDrive games, rather than write the English version and the Japanese version, the same ROM would contain both languages, and they would simply be selected via the region settings on your system. And you could actually modify your Mega Drive or Sega Genesis Model 1s, or pretty much any of the models, to accommodate a region switch to allow you to just switch between the regions and get your same games to get in different region settings here. So, for instance, now this is Bare Knuckle, which is the Japanese name of Streets of Rage. Gotta love the Yuzo Koshiro soundtrack here. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's pull this out and try something else. Now, while I have my region settings set to Japan, let's try a different game. Here is Streets of Rage 2, which is a very famous, excellent game for the Sega Genesis. Now, if I attempt to run this, rather than the game loading properly, this is what I'm going to get. The reason for this is because originally Sega games were region-free, but eventually games started to be region-locked, and you couldn't play North American Sega Genesis games on a Sega Mega Drive, and you couldn't play Mega Drive games on a Sega Genesis, and vice versa. There would be distinct region settings within the game cartridges themselves. So to get around this, I simply have to go back to the main menu. Then I have to go to the settings menu again, find the region settings, set this to auto or USA, it doesn't matter, let's put it on auto, and take the game out, redump it, and now because it's set on auto, it will automatically find the North American settings, and we'll get Streets of Rage 2, one of the greatest games ever made. Oh, I love that sound. Alright, enough of that. Get right into it. Alright, enough of that. Let's try very famous game. Here is the North American version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Sega! Now I'm going to mute this because I don't want copyright claims, because Sonic music is always copyright claims, and I hate it. So this is Sonic 1, And this is the North American version, you can tell, because the clouds are not moving. The Japanese version, which came out slightly later than the Sonic 1 for the Genesis, has the parallax scrolling in the sky. So that's how you can tell. This is dumping the original North American version of Sonic the Hedgehog. And the game runs completely perfectly, just as you normally would expect it to on like a real Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. It's not a very complicated game, and the game, runs at normal speed. It's not a weird speed setting on it or something, So there's Sonic 1. Likewise, we're gonna try. See, where is it? Yep, right here. Here is Sonic 2. So we get Sega. Yep, Sonic 2. Again, everything runs just as it should. The game is beautiful on an HD TV, and you can tell at the very bottom of the screen there, it's got a bit of the weird overscan thing because the game has that. I could disable that, but it's it's inherent to the original game, and it's nice to see that because most emulators and stuff aren't accurate enough to display that. So Sonic 2 is blazing fast, and this is a game all about blast processing. So I guess Hyperkin has blast processing. I think that's what we can take away from this. Alright. And finally, you have to complete it with Sonic 3. Where it's going to import my save. Very kind of them to do that. Alright, so there's Sonic 3. Okay, I'll just start this save. I'm just putting that on to prove that there's nothing wrong with the audio. I'm just muting it because of automatic copyright claims, and I don't want to deal with that. Sonic 3 runs perfectly, and it's just as fun as it's always been. And every Sega fan should definitely own this game because if you guys are younger and you think like the new Sonic games, like I don't know, Sonic Unleashed or whatever, are good, you gotta play the original Sonic games because these are so much better than the newer ones, except for Sonic Generations, because Sonic Generations is amazing. Alright. And the last Sonic game we're going to try here is, of course, Sonic and Knuckles. Which again, will play just fine. Yep. Now, oh, whoops. Oh well, I screwed up there. Now, what's kind of interesting is, I know a lot of people will be asking, well, Sonic 3 works, Sonic and Knuckles work. How about Sonic 3 and Knuckles with the lock-on part? So I'm going to put these two together, put it back in, and we're going to see what happens. So we get Sonic and Knuckles again. So that didn't work. I'm going to try this once again. There we go. That's not the result I was hoping for. we go. Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. According to this, Sonic and Knuckles plus Sonic 3. What we got there is Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is its proper name. So, whee! Ouch. Best Sonic game ever. So yeah, Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic 3 completely work fine. So, how about Sonic 2 and Knuckles? Let's try that. Unplug that. Plug in Sonic 2. Into the Sonic and Knuckles cart. Put that back. Have it redump. And it just says Sonic and Knuckles. So currently, as of firmware 2.0 beta 6, for whatever reason, it can read Sonic 3 and Knuckles, but it can't read Sonic 2 and Knuckles. If you try it, it's like there's no cartridge in there at all. It will only read Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles, I should say. It will completely ignore the Sonic 2. However, this is not the case if you try any other game, including Sonic 1. If you put Sonic 1 or any other Genesis game in with Sonic and Knuckles, try that. So I just put in Sonic 1. And this takes you to the Blue Spear minigame. So you can play this to your heart's content with all of the, tens of thousands of levels that are on this. It's ridiculous in a number. Yeah. So that works. Take that out. Alright, next, let's continue on. Let's try in a great game right here. Konami's Rocket Knight Adventures. Really beautiful game. move on. Next, let's try MegaDrive game from Japan. So here is Mugen Senshi Valis, or Valis the Phantasm Soldier. The first Valis game, starring your blue-haired schoolgirl hero, as you do in Japan. Yeah, there she is. So, once again, this is the Japanese version, which you can very well tell from the text. This is Telenet's classic game. She's got a sword! Alright. That works. Let's try a PAL MegaDrive game. And we're going to enhance this even further by putting the mode to Europe. So it will run in its native PAL mode. It could run in NTSC mode, but I'm going to run it in PAL mode. So here is the famous Zero Wing. So this game not only works completely fine, but if you're running it in Europe settings, it will run in its native PAL speed, as opposed to the NTSC speed, which you'd get on a real Sega Genesis if you tried to run this on a Sega Genesis. Or virtually any other clone, because most clones are NTSC speed only. Alright, moving on. Okay, next we got to go back to the menu here. And let's set this back to auto. Put in a game. We're going to play some Vector Man. A very visually striking late Genesis game. And as you can see here, the game has some hiccups when you try and run this. The game will occasionally slow down and give you a bit of a hiccup. And this is entirely emulation related. So hopefully Hyperkin will fix this in the future. But at least, you know, I can tell that it's running in an emulator because, you know, the game is not completely perfect. Because very otherwise, you know, the Genesis emulator on the Hyperkin Retron5 is very perfect. Alright. I should mention that when you get back to the main menu, the menu is very sluggish in response. Like, I'm continuously pressing buttons and it's only now responding. It's like a good 2 to 3 second delay between when you press something and when you actually get a response. When you're in the main menu, this is not the case with the Sega, with the NES, the Famicom, or the Super Nintendo slots of the Retron 5. It happens with the Game Boy and Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance slot as well. And I don't know what's up with that. It's like the game. It's like it's taking a second to load back how to do the main menu. And it's very annoying. So I hope Hyperkin will fix that in the future as well. All right. Next. Here's one that people will want to see. Here is the Sega Genesis version of Virtua Racing. Virtua Racing was a very expensive game when it was released in 1994. I remember right, this game was something like $95 when it was new, like insanely priced, and it was priced that way because it had a special chip inside the game cartridge itself, which did 3D acceleration, which was something that the Genesis hardware itself could not do. This was similar to the Super FX chip that was used in games like Star Fox for the Super Nintendo. However, unlike Star Fox, the frame rate here is much higher, and the game actually still somewhat looks kind of impressive. It's got a bit of it's got a bit of pop in for its draw distance, but it's not really all that bad. Oh, I'm just gonna play the beginner just for a sec. Look at these people, made of just primitive polygons, but that's all you needed, right? There was a time when this really did look impressive, and its frame rate really is what I think is the most impressive thing about the game, is that it's running on a 16-bit platform, and it's got, such a good frame rate. The game runs so quickly, which is important for a racing game. You compare this to like the likes of Stunt Race FX, which, Stunt Race FX is not a bad-looking game by any stretch, but this is just amazing. Alright, now I gotta go back to the main menu. Let's do that. Alright, pull that out. Now, for those who are wondering, although 32X games could technically fit into the cartridge slot of the Retron 5, the Retron 5's cartridge mold for the Genesis slot is not big enough to accommodate 32X games. So, although theoretically possible, the Retron 5 cannot emulate the 32X games. So, it's not compatible with any 32X games. So, just putting that out there for people who might ask. Next, I'm going to try, the flash carts, but, flash carts don't work on the Retron 5. You guys know that by now, so I'm going to just try it anyway. Here is the MegaDrive. Put that in. It comes up unknown cartridge. Try and run it. And just basically nothing happens. Alright. Next, I'm going to try some reproduction cartridges that I have. So here is a reproduction cart. Whoops. Come on, read it, please. This is a repro cart of Mega Man: The Wily Wars, which was released originally on the Sega channel, and this was never actually officially got a cartridge release. And please dump the game properly. Okay, there we go. So the game works completely fine and even loads all of its saves. This contains Mega Man 1, 2, and 3, and plus a new thing called Wily Tower. So you can play, yeah, that as much as you want. I'm sort of running short on time here, so I'm going to continue on. Now let's check out Sega Master System games through a converter, which I've borrowed from Ace9921. So we're going to try playing Rastan, or Rastan's Saga, on the Sega Master System. As you can hear here, this is the FM sound via the YM2413. Gives Master System games a much richer sound than normal, especially like this part right here. Now on the newer firmware, what you can do here is to go back to the main menu. Again, I have to wait a few seconds for it to actually respond. Go to Game Specific Settings, go to Disable FM Sound, turn that on, and now next time I play the game, it will run via its PSG sound only. It's a much inferior sound, but you know, for people who want that, it's here. Alright, and the last thing I'm going to try, pull that out, we're going to try the Master EverDrive, the EverDrive for the Master System. Put that in, and it doesn't even detect that anything's connected. So unfortunately that doesn't work either, but that's no surprise because no flash card will work with the Retron 5 because of the nature of the Retron 5. So anyway guys, that'll about do it for this video. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know, and once again, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.